You talk about how people want to hear the same story over and over again. How many business owners are telling the story insufficiently or leaving elements of it out? Do you ever work with anyone who's already telling an adequate story and it just isn't working?
Yeah, because they're telling it to the wrong audience, or they have the wrong sword, they're the wrong product.
Okay.
Right? So you can tell a great story and it not be a business.
Sure.
That's the story of my life.
Yeah.
I'm a storyteller. I don't have to, I can just tell a story. But no, when it works great, every great business puts themselves in the mentor part of the story, not the hero part of the story. But it's human nature to think of ourselves as the heroes. This is really hard for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Because, you're thinking, okay, I'm starting whatever it is, starting Uber. Like the hero of this story is Uber. It's this company. But it's not, it has to be the mentor. The hero is the person that can't get somewhere because they don't have a car. That's the hero. The dragon becomes, the thing that's preventing them to get where they want to go. And our sword, as the mentor, we hand them a sword, which is their product. So to me, the company or the entrepreneur is the mentor. The product is the sword. The dragon is the classic problem that you would have put in a business plan.
Sure.
The treasure is what the hero really wants. And when those things work, then, I think sometimes when it comes time to tell the story, whether that's marketing or whatever, we can fall back on trying to just prove that we're a hero.
Yeah.
But I would always start with the pain of the customer, because that's what the mentor has, the sword to kill the dragon.
Yeah. The first thing that I recognized as you were giving that talk was that in many cases, I had positioned my businesses, either the product or the founder, as the hero, instead of them being the mentor and the sword. Maybe that's just the narcissist in me. But do you find that to be commonplace with a lot of companies?
It's instinct. It's instinct. Because we are all, I really believe this stuff to my core. Like, I actually believe we're all going through our own hero's journey in a cyclical way. And our survival instincts, our orphaned heart, puts us in the hero role in our story. So it takes some maturity to realize I don't always have to be the hero of the story. I can be the mentor. And I still have my own, it's cyclical and it folds in on top of each other and all sorts of things. I still have my own hero story going right now. I do. I quit my job and I'm starting a new thing. And, that's a hero story. I'm going to need a mentor. That might be you. I don't know. I need some help. So that is happening. But we tell more than one story at a time.
Yeah.
And so I would say that entrepreneurs at some point realize that your hero story is not going to sustain a business, probably, unless you are an insane narcissist.
Yeah.
And you just will never give up. You're eventually going to have to realize that this company exists to solve a problem, and therefore we aren't the hero. The person who's getting the problem solved is the point. It's the point of why we exist.
Yeah.
Or it's not solving a problem, so we got to figure it out.
Yeah.
That often. I find that sometimes I'll be brought in to help organizations with their story, and they tend to think that's sales and marketing, and within 20 minutes, it's product.
Oh, really?
So,
Okay.
I don't really necessarily see myself as a product expert, but the problem is not that you're telling a bad story, it's that your product isn't solving the problem you think it is.
Interesting.
So you got to figure it out, right? You either got to figure out what problem your product actually solves, or go invent the product to solve. But you can't storytell your way out of
A bad
selling
product.
a hammer of people that need a screwdriver. You just can't.
So what's the telltale sign of that when you come into a business? How do you know that it's the product and not the marketing?
I don't know if I always do, but I have them talk about the hero, list everything about their target person, and ask them what the problem is. And then sometimes I'll see that I just don't think there's a little disconnect. Like, it's usually it's not like you just don't have the quite perfect product to solve the problem you think you're solving.
Yeah.
And I would say, like, look, if you're doing okay and you're selling a bunch of this stuff, that's great news.
Yeah.
Because that means you've designed something for the wrong person, and you're still doing well. So once you find the right person, imagine how great it's going to go. But if you're struggling, then it probably means, nobody wants wagon wheels anymore.
Yeah. Sure.
Whatever it is. Like you're holding on to some story that you believe that isn't true on your balance sheet. It's not working. That's what I'm saying. I just don't think a great story can solve it.
Yeah.
It can maybe do a little bump, like buy you a few months or something. But
Sure.
Not, yeah.
I've never been a CMO before, but I would have to imagine that most CMOs fancy themselves the storyteller of the business, and a good storyteller at that. Maybe that's not the case. You've worked with a lot. Do you find that companies already have good storytellers in place and things are just kind of discombobulated, or do you find that they're kind of way off on the wrong track? They call you in because they've got an issue. I'm more so curious about what those issues are that trigger them to say, we need Joe Boyd to come and teach us Hollywood-style storytelling for these products.
Yeah. I think it's really different on the size of the company. So I've had an opportunity to work for a few Fortune 100 companies, and that honestly is kind of intimidating. It's a whole new world. Like the CMOs there feel very much like, I mean, they might identify as creative, but at that point they're basically like CEOs, right?
Sure, yeah.
They're CFOs often. They're like running huge departments. They want ROI. They start to care less about the story and more about, is this going to work? And so there usually you find creative directors that are the storytellers,
okay,
that sort of thing. In that situation, I usually can pretty well connect with the CMOs, but then I can be a threat to the, you can sense it. Like if you come in as the expert, and I've been there, it's awful. Like if someone's coming in as the expert and you already feel like you're more of an expert than they are.
Yeah, but this is my job.
It takes some humility, right? That's just straight up consulting 101. It's just like the great thing about consulting is that you get to leave, right? But I would say most of the companies I work with are small to mid-sized companies that are probably trying to transition past the entrepreneur story of how we started. I think that's the hardest transition to make, is from like a startup. I mean, how many companies have been startups for 30 years,
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that happen to get it to the next level. And one of them is sort of bringing a unifying story around the company that's a little different, maybe sometimes, than just the founder's story.
Yeah.